want to make a teddy bear with zero experience? Well, this video is going to show you how to make this bear from scratch, even if you have no idea how to sew. I just had the romantic idea to create a bear for my future daughter as I'm currently pregnant. So I bought some fabric off Amazon. I got out a sewing kit my mum got me years ago, and I just tried to make a teddy bear. This was not the first attempt, but I'm going to show you in this video what you need to create your bear, like all the materials, and then we're going to make this bear together from scratch. This is a weekend project, I'd say, so if you've got a free weekend and you've got a good series to binge on Netflix in the background, it's ideal, or you can create over the course of a couple of weeks if that's more your style. But he's pretty cute, I think. He's called Dodo, and he's got moving arms and legs and a cute little face. So let's get started. How did I create this bear with zero experience? Well, this was my first attempt. So this is Ahmed the bear, and Ahmed is literally just a bear shape sewed together twice. So I cut out a bear shape twice, sewed them together, turned it inside out, stuffed it, and then sewed a little face on here and got some eyes. So he's very simple. So if you've never sewed ever in your life, or it's been like 20 years like it was for me, it might be good to just give a bear like this a go. And it doesn't take long, but it will get you familiar with needle and thread, and it's okay. You can gift it to someone. My second bear was a slight improvement, but has been destroyed by my dog. What did you do?
What happened to Betty?
This is Betty. Betty is also just a bear shape, cut out twice, but just a slightly better shape, less koala-y. And then we had Carlos. This is where I attempted the separate limbs, and Carlos isn't very different from the final product. So I just improved the shape a little bit, arms are longer, but the main difference is the fabric. So if you want to do these kinds of like tests and play around with it yourself, get something cheap to play around with, and then you can invest in good fabric. So what do you need to create a teddy bear? So first of all, you need fabric. So I bought these two beautiful, super soft fabrics off of Temu. So it was faux rabbit, like fake rabbit fur fabric, and it was really cheap, and they have so many colors. So get some of that, or whatever fabric you want. Then you need eyes, safety eyes. You can get little sets of different colored eyes, different sizes. You can get these on Amazon. I think that's where I got these from. I highly recommend getting these little pre-made noses, because that's really tough to make look good on the bear, as you can see from Ahmed where I tried to sew a mouth. Nightmare. And you need needles, or just one needle will do, but just grab two to make your life easier. Thread that's going to match your fabric, so whatever the main body is, so in my case a light brown. You need some scissors. You do need some fabric scissors, because normal scissors cutting fabric is a nightmare. It's so annoying. So these are tiny scissors, but I didn't want to buy extra, so try what you have, and you might need to buy some fabric scissors. I recommend it, and some pins. And that is it. And then you just need paper and a pencil. So I'll list all of that on the side of the screen, and that is your basic kit. Oh, and filling, sorry, stuffing. So you need some stuffing, which also you can just buy it on Amazon for super cheap. I just kept emptying my poof, like bean bag, gradually with every bear. So I need to buy some stuffing to top it up. So let's get started from the very beginning. Let's go. This is the pattern we're going to be creating. So I'm going to go through it step by step. You start with an A4 piece of paper and we're going to fold it in half so we end up with something symmetrical. And then I just want you to draw what you think the head of a bear and the body of a bear would look like. And don't worry, we're gonna amend this and I'll give you guidelines as well. So these are the kind of measurements that we're aiming for. So you can have a little measure, make adjustments until you're sort of happy with your bear shape. And then you're going to refold it in half so that we cut out a symmetrical bear. So grab your scissors, cut out that shape nice and smoothly. And then we're going to check that shape as well, once again with your measuring tape or ruler. And this is what you're aiming for. Next, we're coming onto the ears. So we have outer ear and inner ear. So you start just by sort of sketching an ear shape. So you just want 2 semicircles. And you can refer back to those measurements you saw earlier to get them roughly the right size. I make a little arch at the bottoms because they're going to fit onto a rounded head. So just take your time on getting those roughly the right size. We're going to cut them out with your scissors. And I like to fold them in half again just to make sure that I've got symmetry. And you do that on both sides. And just round off that top edge. There you go. That's your outer ear and your inner ear. Next up we have the tail. So very simple shape here. Don't overthink it too much. Good, that's your tail done. Next up you've got the leg. Same story, just use my pattern as a guideline. And just as a note, if you feel like my bear isn't what you want your bear to look like, feel free to make adjustments. Maybe you want bigger legs or bigger feet, or my bear is a little too wide, or whatever it is, feel free to make your own adjustments. Good, so we cut that one out. And next up, after the leg, we've got the sole of the foot. So this needs to match up with the foot itself. So you can just use your leg to trace the sole of the foot and draw an oval shape around that line. And then that's pretty much it. Just I like to again fold it in half, make sure you've got symmetry. And that is the sole of your foot, which will be in a contrasting color. There you go. Next up we have the arm. So this is slightly more freeform. I like to start with an oval shape, and then I just wanted to give it a little bit of a curve and sort of tapering off a little towards the bottom. So you can give this a go. And there you have it. And that is it. That's all your pieces. Well done. Now we have the cutting of the fabric. So this is where you take your pattern and you're going to use some kind of pen to draw around your pattern onto the fabric. So I'm using a chalk pen here, which was easy to use, but it depends on the color of your fabric and what pens you have available. What I would say is avoid super bright colors for your pen, just in case it shows up somehow on some seams or edges on your finished bear. So you don't want to use like a bright pink or something. All right, now we're gonna cut out the body. I like to cut sort of a little shape off, it's easier to manage. And try and cut on the inside of the color if it is a bright color and you're concerned. My fabric's pretty fluffy, so I knew that it wasn't going to show through, so I did leave some of the white line showing. It's very fluffy. You can see all these little fluffy edges I have to remove. Good, so that's body take 1. And here's the leg. Same story, just remember to flip over your leg so that you've got both sides. Don't just do the same side 4 times. I've done that before. Blonde moment. Good. And it can be a little fiddly, the cutting, and really with scissors, I do recommend getting fabric scissors. If I am ever to make more bears in future, I am buying some proper big fabric scissors, not these tiny ones, because they were a bit of a pain. Depends if you want to invest in your sewing kit or you just want to make do. Okay, arm. Again, remember with the arm that you're going to flip the pattern for the other side of the arm, so you don't just want to do 4 of the same. And we want to cut those out. If you want to be a bit OCD about it, because it can slip a little, like when you're drawing around the pattern, you can pin the paper to the fabric so it doesn't move when you're drawing around it. You might want to do that for the body, but for all the separate little pieces, it might be a bit overkill. I didn't bother with it on this bear. Don't forget that you want those contrasting colours on the sole of the foot and the inner ear. So get your contrasting colours. I've got my brown and white bear, but you might want pink and blue, or depends what you like. But it does look nice with those contrasts. It's worth getting that extra fabric. Good, so we just want to cut those out. Very fluffy work. You can see I had to use a different pen here to show up, but it's still fairly neutral in colour. And that is all our fabric cutting. So creating the face. This is the most important thing. So you really want to get measuring to make sure that your nose is going to be in the middle. You want to play around with where you want your eyes and your nose. You'll see later in this video, but the first time I created the face on this bear, it was wonky, so I started again. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just cutting out one more body. So just really take your time. I'm using a measuring tape here to measure the distance of the eyes from that central line. But this is the one that actually ended up going wrong. So once you know where your eyes are gonna go, you can use a pair of scissors or a needle or a little knife, something sharp, to poke through the fabric, and you want it to be the smallest hole possible that the safety eye actually fits through. So I do end up doing a little bit of fiddling, and then I do manage to get it through. So do make sure you get proper safety eyes. You don't want any choking hazards on your teddy bear. And even if there's no baby or kids involved, you just don't want your eyes coming off, because it's going to be very hard to put them back on again. So that's how you attach your safety eyes. They just sort of squeeze onto each other. And you want to do that for the second eye and really make sure that they are in line.
And trust me, it is so worth redoing this whole side if it goes wrong, because the face is everything. The face is the character of the bear. So I'm going to show you here how my bear ended up wonky. So I sewed the nose on, and as you can see, wonky nose, wonky eyes. So that's the bear that you can see on the side, and now I'm on my second attempt where I get a lot more OCD about positioning the nose. So I put dots the whole way around to help me to position it right, and I also use little crosses so I have lots of guidelines and it doesn't end up sitting wonkily. So I recommend that you do the same with lots of guidelines. And now I'm going to start actually sewing the nose on. So you get your thread, and I haven't created like a specific video on the absolute basics of sewing here, but you want a nice long piece, otherwise you have to keep rethreading your needle. You're going to thread it through the eye, and then a little bit fiddly, what I do is I tie a little knot here so that it stays, the thread stays always on the needle. So I make a little knot once and a knot twice. It's like fiddly work. That's why you don't want to cut too short a piece of thread, that you have to do this a million times. And once you have got it knotted on, then we can start actually sewing. So I'm not going to go into this much detail throughout the whole video, but just for the first few ones, if you are a total novice at sewing, I promise this video is for you. So you push your needle through. First we're going to attach the thread to the nose, so we do that twice. So we make a loop of thread, so we make a little loop, and then you go through the loop and you're going to tighten it up there. So you can hold the other end and tighten, 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 and now it's firmly attached. And I do that a couple of times. So I'll go through again, yeah, and through the loop, and that makes a knot. And like I said, I don't really know how to sew, but I make these knots quite often when I'm just generally sewing, so that if something were to come loose, it wouldn't all unravel, because there would be a knot fairly soon. So we've attached the thread to the nose, and now we want to attach the nose to the bear. So you want to go through. So I've filmed, this is my first wonky bear for this video, apologies, but you have all your little guidelines, so you know exactly where the center of your nose is, and that's where you're going to attach it. And same goes for throughout the sewing of this. You want to match up your guideline points on the nose to the bear itself, and you want to really secure it on there, because you don't want this nose falling off. So yeah, if you do notice that this does end up looking pretty wonky as we go through this video, but yeah, apologies, I didn't refilm it all for the second one. So this is my final bear, and you can see the eyes are wider and the nose is definitely straight. And I'm happy with him. I think maybe the eyes are slightly wide, but it's okay with me.
Hello! Sorry to interrupt your flow and your process, but if you are enjoying this video, a like means so much. So please do like the video, and I am going to be creating more crafting sorts of videos on my channel. I have yoga classes. I'm quite pregnancy focused right now because I'm expecting a baby. But if any of those topics do interest you, please do subscribe. It means a lot. And sorry for the interruption. Now we can go back into the process.
Now we're going to start sewing the tail. So it's a nice little small piece to start with. So you've got both sides of your tail. You want to put them fur to fur, so the fluffy parts are facing each other. And we're going to use the pins to pin both of those together. You probably only need like 3 pins or something, not much. And once that's all firmly pinned, we're going to prepare our needle and thread. So again, you want a long piece. You're going to knot it on as I showed you earlier. And with the very first attachment, you're going to do your knot. So you create a loop, go through the loop to knot it on. And you want to start on kind of the corner of the base of the tail, and then you're going to go round but leave the actual base of the tail open. So we attach it on the corner and then you go round the rounded part sewing until you get to the other edge, so that we leave the base open. And that's because we need to turn it inside out, so you'll see that in a bit. You can remove the pins whenever they become annoying or they're not really needed. And if you're working with very fluffy fabric like I am, it can help to kind of use your fingers to push the fluff in, so that, yeah, you don't have like all the fluff built up in the seam. And then you're going to sew all the way around the edge until it looks like this. And we turn it inside out, boom, tail done. So next up, we're going to attach the tail to the bear. So just pop it on and see where it's going to go. And what I do first, so first of all, just a note, I don't fill the tail with stuffing. I just sew it closed because I don't feel like it, otherwise it would be like a rabbit's tail. So I sew it closed now, and then I'm going to attach the tail onto the bear. So it's sewed all the way to the end. I just give it a little trim, and now I'm going to attach the tail onto the bear, and just use your own common sense of where you think it should go. You can measure it on the back like we did when we positioned the nose and the face, etc. Good. And then we just sew through, similar to the nose, you're just going back and forth until your tail is firmly secured. And there you have it. So we're gonna trim our thread as usual. And now we have a cute little tail. Ooh, so sweet. Well done. Now we're going to sew the body. So we have both our pieces. We've got one with the tail, one with the face. We're going to put them fur to fur, and it's important to pin nicely here. So you want to pin the whole way around. Good, so just all the way around. We don't need too many. And you want to keep this open. So you want an opening because, again, we're going to turn the bear inside out. So make sure that you leave an opening, and I think this is the best spot for the opening. So leave it down at the base, and then we're going to start sewing. So you attach your thread and you just loop round from the back side to the front until you have this sewed all the way around with your little opening, and your body is done. We're going to trim the thread. Good. Set it aside. And now we have the most fun part, which is turning it inside out. I love turning it inside out. It's like magic. You see what you've created, and it goes from looking weird and funky into actually starting to look like a bear. Look at that little tail, and ooh, it's like it's being born. Here we go. And I think without the ears, it looks like an otter. So there you have your bear body. Awesome. Now we're going to sew the ears. So this part's actually a little tricky. You put it fur to fur, and we're going to sew the corners together. So you're going to attach the corners together by doing your knots. So a few knots on the corner, and then you're going to cut your thread off so it's firmly attached by one corner. Then we're going to do the same on the other side. Okay, and bear with me, this is all going to seem very weird. And again, I don't know how to sew, but this did work in the end. Good. And next up, I'm going to do the same thing, but on the very top of the ear on both sides. So we get the very top of the sort of arch of the ears. I'm sorry, I'm sewing hidden from your view, but you'll see it in the end. Yeah. So you have another knot there. And then you add the same thing between the arch and the corner on both sides. And then eventually we will just sew along the edge, because that brings it all in alignment. So this is what it looks like with all sort of your guidelines, your knots, and now I will just sew around the edge. But you want to leave the base of the ear open because we're going to turn it inside out, of course. So now I'm just going to sew like normal around that top edge of the ear until I have this. And now I'm going to turn it inside out, which I love. Ooh. So now you've got that little white bit on the inside and brown on the outside. There you have it. And now you're going to do the same thing for the other side as well. And then they pop on and you can start to see it piece together. Look at that. So, so cute. Stuff the bear. So you get your stuffing, and we're going to put the stuffing into the body, pushing it all the way up into the head as well. So this is going to make it easier to attach the ears than it being flat. So you don't need to finish the job, you just, especially the head, just give it some volume, and we can adjust the stuffing a little bit later on. But I just like it because it starts to feel more like a bear. Now we're going to attach the ears. So again, you just kind of want to use your own judgment to see where you want those ears to go. And what I did was I pinned them on first using the pins. It's not very secure. And then I start to sew them on, but I just like to pin them first so I can just see the alignment, if it's sort of looking good. And you want to be as delicate as you can with the attaching of ears or any of the limbs, because you don't want all of those stitches to show up from the outside. So you want to go really down into the base as you're attaching, and you want your stitches to be very small so that they're hidden by the fur. And attaching, I think, is one of the hardest parts, so be patient with yourself. And I like to I attach them loosely and then I firm them up until these are nicely attached. And again, they are not stuffed, so I didn't put any stuffing in the ears, I just attached them flat. Now we're gonna sew the arms together. So again, you want to attach them fur to fur. You're gonna pin the whole way around, and I like to leave the wide base of the arm open. So you leave that opening for turning inside out. There you have it. We're gonna trim, and we're gonna turn it inside out, and there you have your nice little fluffy arm. It's going to fit on like this. Now we're gonna stuff the arms. So this is optional. I didn't put it in the list of things you need. I put some rice at the very base of my arms to give it this kind of granular texture and a slightly heavy feeling. So I add it sort of to that point there, so not the whole arm, and then I add stuffing for the rest of the arm. But you could just add stuffing for the whole arm, that's totally fine. Yeah, I like the weight of it. There you go. And now we're gonna just sew up the opening. So we do that quickly, and now it's ready to attach. So attaching the arms. This is a little tricky, so do take your time in this step. First, we attach the thread to the middle of the arm, and do play around and take your time to see where you want your arm to go. Next, we're going to attach the arm to the body, and the rest is just going around until it feels attached, but it's not too loose. So you need to keep going around, and there you have both arms attached. Next up, we have sewing the feet. So you've got your 2 brown feet pieces. We're going to do those first. We're going to pin them, and you're going to leave 2 openings this time. You're going to leave the sole of the foot open and the top of the leg open. So we sew all the way around, well, not all the way around, so until it looks like this. You have the opening at the top, and you have an opening at the bottom. And that's where we're going to put the sole of the foot in our different colour. So this part is also a little fiddly, and bear with me. So I attached the very top of the oval to the tip of the toe, and I'm going to knot it on a couple of times to fasten it securely. This is kind of similar to what we did with the inner to outer ear. So I make a few knotted points first, and then I do the sewing. So we're going to do that on the other side as well. So you turn it around. So we're going to do the opposite end of the oval to the heel of the foot. And sorry that I'm hiding this from your view. Not helpful. There you go. So onto the heel of the foot. And then we're going to do the sides of the ovals onto the sides of the feet as well. So I'm just showing you here. Yeah, so that side of the oval to the side of the foot. And once you've done that also on the other side, that's when we can just sew as normal the whole way around the sole of the foot. And this is what it will look like. So I love turning this one inside out because it's so podgy and cute, these little feet. And there you have your little leg number 1. And now we're going to stuff the foot. Again, optional rice. So I like to stuff the bottom of my little leg so the foot is heavy and ricey. You can use whatever rice you have on hand. You could use lentils if you want to be fancy, or whatever you have on hand. or just stuff it with stuffing as well. That is totally fine. But I do like the added weight that it gives the legs. And then you put your stuffing in there, and you want it to feel quite nice and firm, because over time the stuffing will compact over the years, so I'd put more in rather than less. Good, and you want to then sew up the very top of the leg, and there you have them, 2 little podgy legs ready to attach onto our bear.
At this point, the bear is nearly finished and he's looking super cute. And I just had a bit of an idea here. I wrote a little note. Wait, let me get it back out. I wrote a little note on a piece of paper and folded it up for my daughter, my future daughter. And my husband did the same. And we folded them up and we popped them right inside. And the intention is that they will never be read, but it's just like a little memory that we wrote something and it lives within the bear. I like it, but yeah, and we took a little Polaroid of the moment, and we've just got to keep it secret from her when she's a kid so she doesn't tear the bear apart. So right, now we're going to sew up the opening and we're going to attach the legs.
So now we're going to sew up the body. So if you want to add some more stuffing in there, this is the time. And again, you want it to be more firm rather than too little firm. You know what I mean? Because it will compact over time. You sew up the opening with little delicate stitches. And now we're going to attach the legs. So again, just familiarize yourself with where you want that leg to be. It helped me to have the teddy sitting down as well, and that's where you want your leg to swivel. So we're going to attach the thread to the joining point of the leg there, and now we're going to attach it to the seam of the bear. I just used some pins to mark where I'm going to attach. So we attach the leg in here, and again, attaching takes time. You want it to be delicate so you don't see those stitches, and you want it to be firm enough that they're not going to fall off and they don't feel loose. All right, I'm just switching over to the sofa. Yeah, so it's hard to get it right. You want to keep checking that the limbs can move, but that they feel sturdy enough that they're not going to be ripped off or they just look a bit dangly. So take your time on this step and sewing all the way around the leg, inside, outside. Good, I've got one leg attached, ready for the second one. And yeah, I'm watching Netflix here. I look very focused. But yeah, really take your time and make sure that your legs are matching and they're in the right position. You don't want them to be wobbly. And then you'll see when you're done. And I'm pretty happy with him. He's sitting there so cute. So there you have your bear.
So if you've made it all the way to the end of this video and you have anything resembling this bear in your hands right now, then a massive, massive, massive well done. I know how proud I feel to have created this, and I'm sure you feel the same, and I hope that whoever it's for, whether it's for yourself or whether it's for family, friends, loved ones, that they appreciate all the hard work and effort that went into this. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please do comment below if you have any questions, confusions, and how it's gone. I would love to see photos as well, but I don't know how that works with YouTube. I don't even have Instagram or anything. But please comment below if you created your bear. I would love to hear how it's gone. Thank you so much for watching, and looking forward to seeing you in some other videos.